Greetings, dear viewers. Welcome to Allatra TV. We are very happy to see you. My name is Marina and my co-host is Olga today. And we are so excited to introduce you to our guest, Laird Scranton. Laird is a frequent visitor of radio shows in the United States and, of course, the visitor and participant of the program on Allatra TV as well. He is an independent researcher of ancient cosmology and language and author of numerous books. Laird explores the mystery of why so many ancient cultures, separated by time and distance, share remarkably similar cosmological philosophies and religious symbolism. Laird reveals how this creation tradition uphold the idea that ancient instruction gave birth to the great civilizations, each of which preserves fragment of the original knowledge. We are very happy to welcome you, Laird. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much, Marina. I greatly appreciate you inviting me to come on and speak today.
Of course. And welcome, Olga, as well. And before we start, I would like to point our viewers' attention to the conference that happened on December 20th, 2020, on the platform of Allatra Unite. That was a unique international online conference, Creative Society United Weekend. Millions of people joined it from more than 180 countries. We had thousands of broadcasting platforms and simultaneously translation to 35 different languages. And on this conference, people raised the very important question about the most crucial points that we have in our society. What is the solution? And the people stated the only one solution that we have right now is to change the format from a consumer society to a creative society. And right now, I would like to ask our technical support to play the video about this conference.
Today, millions of people have gathered together to take the responsibility for our future, the future of our children, and the future of the whole civilization.
And we desire a creative society in which we can build it all.
And do it now, putting human life above all else and allocating resources accordingly is the only way to go forward.
We're sick and tired of living in a society where we're always afraid of something, where we have fear.
We, the people of planet, unite to create a distant world. Together, we can overcome everything, humanity. A creative society in the world in which no one will be afraid to face a cataclysm because the value of human life. Main idea, the main trend is human life, and for this we should inform people all over the world, and all people should know about this project. And we need only you, dear friends, your relatives, friends, and everyone whom can be informed by you.
Dear Laird, we know that you watched the conference United Weekend, so we would like to ask you, how do you feel about the project Creative Society? What inspires you and motivates you to take an action, and what specifically do you like? Could you please share with us?
Yes, I should begin by saying how much I greatly admire every person I've come in contact with related to Creative Society, their good intention, their intelligence, the diverse backgrounds they come from, the diverse diversity regionally across the planet that I see, the principles of what I see as a kind of global humanism that I've always admired. I grew up in Oregon, which is in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and is the region whose societal ethic most closely resembles what we find in Scandinavia. The expectation in society as I was growing up was that individuals could be trusted to act responsibly. And so the assumption was that they would. The society admired any person who could arrive at a solution to a problem that provided greater benefit to the society at a similar cost of resources and effort. Working from that as my base, I was then educated at Vassar College, which was the first university in the United States that was intended to educate women at the same level of education that men at Yale or Harvard universities were educated. I was one of the early men to attend Vassar College, and I came to appreciate the feminine sensibilities that define that place, and have a very deep sense of the differences that accrue almost by nature to a feminine perspective on the world as opposed to the traditional masculine perspective on the world. Beyond that, my studies, the focus of my studies is on ancient traditions that also began as a feminist tradition, and where concepts of an ethical society were the rule that guided the tradition. And so from those various aspects of my own life, the creative society outlook resonates with my entire background.
That's wonderful. And I also I'm very happy right now to see that already millions of people united around this idea, millions of people join that project. And because we simply all want and desire to live in a world worthy of a human. And we all understand that that transformation is possible only by peaceful means. Such a positive social transformation is only by peaceful means, is only sustainable if we really will talk to each other, to inform to each other, to bring this idea to every single person on earth. And when we all can really decide that we need it, we would like to take the step and move forward to a creative society. And my question is, Laird, why do you think this positive social transformation is possible, and what is the role of each person in this process?
I would say that change occurs through awareness, which encourages proper behavior. And awareness is encouraged or is fostered by information. We all know that for a person whose heart is beating too fast, or their breathing rate is too fast, there are concepts of biofeedback that if you can find a way to make a person aware of the beating heart or of the rapid breathing, that they are able to control that. They're able to self-control. They're able to assert authority over their own actions or their own body's actions. And the same thing is true with society in general, that if a person can be made aware of what the bad consequences are, the bad or good consequences of different behaviors are for themselves and for their families and for their communities, my experience has been that people can be convinced to act properly, to behave properly. And so information is central to being able to do that. We want to provide people with a clear sense of what the result is from any given choice.
Yes, absolutely. Awareness and information is very important. So without knowing, we cannot choose. We really need to understand both sides between we choosing right now. And the situation is very crucial nowadays. And we all see, doesn't matter in which part of the world we live, we see the bad sides of our society. And we know that we definitely can change if we unite around the idea to create a better future. And that's very, very easy to do, especially nowadays, because we have such a wonderful technology that can unite us so easily. So where we can start online mutual dialogue when we have it right now. For example, me, Laird, we're located in the United States and Olga is in Belgium. And it's so easy right now to find a platform and to talk about us, about our future, what we can do as a people, if we really want to, right?
Right.
Yes, true. And I would like also to add that another one very important thing is responsibility. The main difference between creative society and consumerist society that we are living now is that everyone takes responsibility in creative society. And I would like to ask you, how do you see that? What can help people to realize this?
Understanding that when people can be counted on to behave responsibly, the foundational principles of a creative society almost come about automatically. That a person who can be counted on to behave responsibly will speak up if they see an injustice. A person who can be counted, when the populace can be counted on to behave responsibly, the society needs fewer laws, and the laws that they do have can be more flexible laws. And I understand this having grown up in a society where there was a strong social ethic, and that ethic has a ripple effect. It not only affects the behavior of individuals, but when there's a societal expectation of responsible behavior, it affects the way businesses behave, it affects the way governmental bodies behave, it affects the way that public utilities and so forth behave. Where I grew up, before the electric company would make changes to their electrical grid, would send out a survey to their customers saying, what changes could we make that would better serve your community? This is the type of approach that we would hope to have a society take. And my understanding is that societal ethic is a hugely powerful force in accomplishing that. The simple expectation that people will behave that way is enough to encourage them to behave that way.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. And it's not a secret that right now we live in a consumer society. And the main characteristic of such a model of a society are the first is that we're shifting responsibility from our life, from our choice to somebody else's shoulders. Why we do so? Yes, we raised this way, but at the same time, it's so convenient for us to do so because we don't want to take an action. We don't want to act, and it's very easy to shift to somebody else. So, in case that person will not succeed, we have somebody to blame for our problem. So, and the second difference between the creative society and consumer society, that in a consumer society, human life has zero value. Profit, that's something that most important and most desirable and most valuable, unfortunately. And as a result of such a model, we have wars and we have conflicts through entire human history. But we also know that we have examples of ancient cultures, ancient civilization who lived peacefully. And that's a very inspiring information. Could you please tell us about these examples?
Beginning at around 9,000 BC is where our first evidence of the societal plan that I research came about. My focus is on traditions like Buddhism, a group called the Dogon from Africa, whose perspective is that they benefited in ancient times from an instructed civilizing plan whose the plan had two purposes. The first was to provide us a sustainable structure for society, for humanity, and the second was to closely interlink that structure with what are scientific concepts of creation. This is a symbolic system that represents science. And at Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey at around 9,000 BC, we see the first example of that. And in that region, excavators, archaeologists have turned up no evidence of weaponry or of fortifications. They understand that the purpose of this ancient site was not one of warfare, it was one of education, or certainly one of it's a sanctuary that people came to celebrate ideas with each other. But the key to that era was that this was not an era of warfare. If we move forward from there to around 3000 BC, we have a similar situation on Orkney Island in northern Scotland, where again, there is no evidence of a period of warfare. They haven't turned up weaponry, they haven't turned up fortifications, they haven't turned up burials that indicate that there was warfare in the region. That same societal ethic carried forward into, from my perspective, into ancient Crete. In pre-Minoan and Minoan Crete, within the society of them itself, the archaeologists have found no evidence of fortifications, that the people felt no urgency to defend themselves against warfare. So that mindset is one that I believe accrues to a way of thinking about the world and a way of an ethic that applies to society. And one of the goals of the ancient symbolic system was to establish structures for society that would foster that. And we see those structures sustained in ancient Egypt from around 3000 BC, or for a period of around 3,000 years, from around 3000 BC to around 700 BC. If we imagine that the Dogon culture emerged out of the same tradition, the Dogon are a modern day society. Their structures of society have sustained for nearly 5,000 years. So this is a very stable system that was defined. The challenge for these societies has been to find ways to pass information forward in coherent manner, so that there isn't the knowledge isn't lost from generation to generation.
Yeah, just think about like 5,000 of peaceful years, and that's possible. So that's very, very, very crucial information. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Yeah, really, it's really very inspiring. And talking about Dogon people, it was very interesting to me to read in your book where you're talking that people were given knowledge from civilizers many times in ancient history, and Dogons also had this information from civilizers, and you talk that the knowledge of the Dogons included the knowledge about society. They got knowledge how to make clothes, knowledge of agriculture, advanced knowledge about the universe, and actually it was always a knowledge about creating something, about creation, and well, they also given the knowledge how to destroy, to develop weapon and to fight.
Any knowledge we understand has the potential to be misused. One of the advantages in the Dogon society is a difference in outlook about society itself. In modern religious traditions, very often things are conceptualized in terms of an opposition between good and evil. In Dogon society, that opposition was expressed as being between truth and error. There was no value judgment placed on whether a person succeeded at acquiring a particular piece of knowledge. That the outlook of the society was not one of certain segments of society performing evil acts. Limiting that concept in that way puts an obstacle to begin with in the way of evil action. One of the reasons why my generation didn't see mass shootings at schools in the 1960s was because none of us had a concept that that was even a possible thing. It was unthinkable in society that a gunman would go to a school and shoot children. So expectation in society is a hugely important thing. Naturally, if we're talking about creational science, we're talking about domains of understanding that have potential, that ultimately have potential to produce atomic bombs for modern society. Obviously, there's a potential of it being used wrong. In Dogon society, there is no emphasis on that whatsoever, that there was no intention to instruct society members about warfare. We can see as time progresses, and with societal groups that seem to have come out of the same instructional mindset, that some of them were quite capable of defending themselves when they had to. But based on the examples I've shown, we can say that it was never their intention or their natural mode of action to use knowledge for warfare.
Thank you very much. And that brought me to thought that like we really create our reality with our own hands. Your example about mass shooting at a school like proves that you didn't have it because you simply didn't have examples, didn't have that idea that it's possible. And of course, in our time, we have so many like examples of violence around us, like news, TV shows, movies, even the cartoons for little kids. They're full of examples of violent behavior between characters, between people. And of course, we have the consequences of it. So if we as a society would like to live in a peaceful communities, that's our responsibility to really create a condition for development of people, development of children. That's a crucial, and we need to understand it. And by talking to you today, I really realized that we have some misconception in our society that keeps us like from acting, keep us like being silent and do nothing. And one of them is that because we didn't know that we have good examples in our history that people can live peacefully. Because as soon as we open the history book or philosophers encyclopedia, we see that how many wars we had, and we see that like a scientific explanation of justifying that nature, that yes, we human are like this, and that we only can have a conflicts and war in our society. But it's not true. And thank you so much for sharing with us this information that yes, we are human beings. Yes, we are dual. We have both animal and spiritual nature in us. And definitely, if we create a condition in our society where we will like really understand our bad side and do everything possible that keep this side like from acting, but at the same time nourish and develop the best human values, then we will have definitely results. And I'm pretty sure that in Dogon's culture and in Göbekli Tepe, they did it. if they understood it, they had this knowledge, and they did everything possible in order that every single person and society itself will flourish. And the second misconception is about cycles that we have. That's cosmical cycles, yuga cycles, for example. And this misconception is about that, yes, when we go through cycles, and we definitely go, but in the end of one cycle, something happened to us, something happened to our consciousness, and all of a sudden we will wake up like this, and everything will change. We will forget automatically about conflicts, about bad behaviors, and the golden age will appear. And I would like to ask you a question. What's the people's role in this process? Is it really magically will happen, or really we need to work on that and really create that golden age with our hands?
Well, every day in our lives, we see a cycle of daytime and nighttime, light and darkness. Now, a person might think that their only option is to endure the darkness until the sun rises in the morning, and that's one way to live. But any intelligent or creative person understands that there are ways of producing light even when it's dark. But that depends on our taking action to do that. And so that's the tension that we have to keep in mind as we talk about these cycles is, yes, the outlook in Buddhism and Hinduism and in some of the other traditions is that there are natural cycles that affect humanity, just as there are natural cycles of climate that affect humanity. But the intelligent person does not necessarily wait for that cycle to produce a result. The intelligent person who wants a particular result has the capability as a human being to take action that provides that result in a better way, or in a quicker way, or in some way that's more suitable to the people they live with. So that's the mindset that I would hope that people would approach these questions from. Absolutely, there are cycles of energy that are defined in the tradition. We don't have to be victims of those cycles necessarily. If the outcomes we are experiencing are not the ones we want, we are intelligent people. We can take action and we can make change.
Absolutely agree with you, and thank you so much for answering this question this way. And another misconception that we also see very, very often, that for example, the prophet or higher beings or civilizers will come to us and bring the knowledge and build a creative society for us. So they will help to defeat the evil part, and they will help us to build something better, the golden age. And again, I'm wondering, where's the role of people in this process? We have civilizers, we had prophets, and they all brought knowledge, and that's true. But what is our responsibility as somebody who received this knowledge?
Again, if we don't conceptualize things in terms of evil and good, then we are not oriented to think in terms of some godlike, capable force making things better for us in the long run. That this is not a matter of a religious perspective of change over time, making things better for us. One of the factors that's trying to be fostered in the symbolic tradition that I spoke about, the civilizing plan for humanity, was to promote a facility in humanity for what is called discriminating knowledge, which is the ability to take a set of facts and draw intelligent conclusions from them. And the more practice that people are at doing that, the more they can examine a proposition of the sort that, well, humanity needs to wait for someone to come along and solve this for us, Again, an intelligent and a creative person will see that there's no benefit to waiting for someone to solve it for us. We have the power to make change ourselves. Why shouldn't we be improving things every day ourselves? Now, one of the ways to make that happen, perhaps the best motivator for change, from my perspective, with individuals in the world, if you can arrange a circumstance where the inconvenience of a person's behavior falls back on them, in my experience, most people will change their behavior. And so as a society, we need to be making choices that produce that result in that, not in a punitive way, but in a natural consequences way, that to try to arrange situations where the bad behavior of a person produces a natural result that is bad for that person. And if you can establish a framework for society where that's true, then most people will change their behavior.
Absolutely agree with you.
Yes, true. Thank you. And I would like to ask you about information. How important is openness and accessibility of information and knowledge in the creative society? What do you think?
If we're dealing with responsible people, a responsible person has no reason not to be transparent and open about their actions. In fact, once you've accomplished that and you are working with a group of people who are, the expectation is that people will be responsible, anyone who is not transparent is suggesting to the others that they may not be acting responsibly, because there's no motivation for a responsible person not to explain to others what it is they're doing and why they're doing it. So part of the process of trying to correctly transmit knowledge from person to person, from generation to generation, to try to correctly transmit a set of values or a set of ethics forward, is to do so in a way where everyone around you trusts what you're saying. And transparency produces trust. Transparency is one of the foundations of trust. If you believe that I'm hiding something, if you believe I'm working from a motivation that I haven't told you about, everything that I'm trying to accomplish becomes undercut. Lack of transparency is an obstacle to my being able to accomplish that. And so again, once we begin working from a framework where the expectation in society is that people and businesses and governmental authorities will behave in a responsible way, transparency is one of the litmus tests of that. It's one of the factors that we can look to, one of the objective factors we can look to judge by whether each entity is actually doing that, each individual is actually doing that.
Absolutely agree with you, because as you said earlier, everything starts with responsibility. So if you act responsible, so you have nothing to hide. And again, to emphasize the responsibility, I have a very last question to you. What can everyone do in order to spread information about the creative society?
From my point of view, the simple thing that any person can do that will have the greatest effect is to step up and to speak out loudly when they see people taking irresponsible action. If they'll do that, that choice, if it's applied equitably across our daily life, is what stands against injustice. It's what encourages government to exercise more reasonable laws. And each person can do it. Each person can stand for values of responsibility. Each person knows the difference between responsible and irresponsible action, to find ways to, not in an aggressive way, but in a forthright way, to stand up and shine a bright light on irresponsible action. That's how we promote a consensus in society that responsible action is what is expected. And it's that expectation of responsible action that has the force, has the power to turn society. Barack Obama once said about the United States that the United States is a barge, not a skiff. A skiff is a kind of a boat that can turn on a dime. You can change direction in a moment. A barge, you take action now, and maybe 5 minutes from now, the barge begins to turn. Mm-hmm. Each person behaving responsibly is a drop in that ocean of getting society to change its direction. It doesn't happen automatically. But if we can arrange for our own personal, the piece that we're personally connected to in life, to promote those values, then soon those drops add up into a puddle, and the puddle adds up into a pond, and the pond adds up into a sea. And so we end up with the expectation in our society that people are going to behave in responsible ways. We also need to reward that. When we see somebody behaving in a responsible way, we need to praise it. We need to encourage it in our children. We need to take every opportunity that we see to act on it. We need our actions to demonstrate that that's our intention.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you, and thank you so much for such a great examples that we really need to act right now. And because that's the chance for all of us to create a better future for us and for our children as well. And dear viewers, thank you so much for being with us today. If you would like to learn more about the Creative Society project, please visit our website, allatraunites.com. There you can read more information about the organization, about the project, and you can also send us your comment about this broadcast, about how you envision Creative Society, and maybe you would like to become the part of that group. Maybe the group is very, very big, that entire humanity, because it's our project. And dear Laird, thank you so much for sharing with us your wisdom, your kind words, your very, very good uplifting message about that we really can build a creative society all together. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I really would like to invite all our viewers to join us to our third international conference, Creative Society, What the Prophet Dreamed of. This conference will be held on March 20th, 2020 at 15 Greenwich time or 10 a.m. Eastern time. And we will discuss very interesting question about what is a creative society and how the prophets from all time brought this knowledge about how we people can unite and build the world worthy of a human. So hope to see you there, and thank you so much for being with us today. Let's watch a trailer about this conference.
Unprecedented event of present history. Initiative that comes from people around the world. Main project of humanity. People stopped being silent about urgent issues of our society. How it all started. May 2019, International Online Conference, Society, The Last Chance. 140 countries of the world, hundreds of thousands of people online, hundreds of broadcast platforms, translated into 7 languages simultaneously. If we all want to live in peace, why do we have a world of violence and destruction? It is up to us to build a different world. How can we do it? December 2020, Creative Society, United We Can. 180 countries of the world, millions of people online, thousands of streaming platforms, 35 languages simultaneously translated. People have voiced today's reality and what they truly desire. And it is the Creative Society. All cultures have an image of the ideal world people want to live in. A world that prophets talked about. The time has come when we can make it real. How will we use this chance? Let's meet March 20, 2021, 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time and 10 a.m. Eastern Time. International online event of global scale. Creative Society, what the prophets dreamed of. This is the day the world will unite to find out the truth. Join the entire humanity and spread the message.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.